Okay, so welcome everyone, and I'm really excited to see so many of you here. I think this is the third in our series of monthly webinars around AI and Retool. I think we had about 130 people last time, and it's great to see there's so many more here today. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Ben Miller. I lead our solutions engineering team here in EMEA, and I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Ewan Larkin-Smith, who will be running through all the content today. So as a brief agenda, we'll start by just giving a very brief background on why we're here. We'll then kind of define the differences between apps, agentic workflows, and agents, and kind of when we want to use each one. And then we'll spend really the majority of today's session actually building in the solution, and you'll all go kind of hands-on building. Um, the one thing I would encourage all of you to do kind of during the session is, ask as many questions as you have in the chat. We've got Tobias who'll be monitoring the chat. So if you kind of get stuck or fall behind at any point, please just kind of ask in the chat and we'll be able to help you. Likewise, we've kind of sent, you should have all been invited to the Retool instance earlier today. So EMEA agents at retool.com. We'll be using that for the session today. So if you haven't already logged in, please kind of look at your emails. You'll have received an invitation and please kind of try and log in now. You can then also, we've also basically put in a document with lots of instructions. So please open that document. And again, that will help you kind of follow along during the session. So I'm assuming most people that are here kind of know Retool pretty well already. So I'm not going to kind of speak at this at length. But, when I speak to kind of CIOs and CTOs, they're also all basically telling me we need to leverage as much as possible from our investments in AI. Amrita, we believe, is really the platform that lets you do that. And it kind of lets you do this in three ways. So firstly, most people have, relationships with Anthropic or OpenAI. And what Retool lets you do is actually build the interaction layer with these models. So whether that's like applications that let your end users kind of like use front ends to kind of those models. So for things like, chatbots, whether that's agentic workflows that, we kind of use for like triaging support tickets to actually completely end-to-end agents. These are some of the things that we can really, help our customers with. And before I kind of finally hand over to Ewan, I wanted to kind of talk about why we're running this session today. And I'm really, really excited about this one. And I think the reason we've seen so many signups is, we have customers coming to us all of the time saying, we want to build an agent to do X. But actually, kind of when we get into the detail and understand what they actually want to do, sometimes we actually realize, actually, for this particular business process you have, maybe an agentic workflow is like better, or maybe like an app is more kind of suitable to this. So how do we actually work out like what's our sort of internal mental model for mapping, a process to like how we want to resolve that process? And we always say it starts with like defining the business process. So, I think there are certain features in kind of any business process that we have, like how much human interaction does it have? If it's involving human interaction at every step, usually an app is going to be the best kind of interface for that. Whereas, if you want to have something that's able to make autonomous, almost immediate decisions, probably going to be an agent that kind of is going to be best suited for that. But yeah, with this, I'd like to pass over to Ewan to kind of take us through the webinar. So over to you, Ewan.
Perfect. Well, look, thank you very much, Ben. So I think Ben really established there why we're doing today's webinar. And I think the first piece that we really need to key and have a look at here is the need for clarity. And it's something that we see a lot when talking to our customers now that our product set is quite large, that they get stuck at the first barrier, which is choosing the right tool. Teams often struggle before even starting to build on how they are going to build this, whether they are going to choose an app, a workflow, or an agent. So today we're really trying to scale that down and help people understand what is the right way to move forwards from the start. The second piece here is avoiding inefficiency. We're often seeing that people are building out tools or systems, certain automations, and maybe not in the correct way. It can lead to a lot of duplicated effort, a lot of manual workarounds that maybe don't suit that tool specifically, or just a poor user experience. So today we really want to unlock a little bit more value here for certain organizations and making full use of all the tools that we provide in our platform to actually avoid these inefficiencies and maybe unlock new use cases too. So I think the first thing I want to do is actually put a poll into the chat. So I believe Daniel Kim is going to put a poll into the chat now, and I've got three kind of situations here, and I would like for everyone just to fill out that poll and decide whether each one in order would be app, workflow, agent, agent, workflow, app, whatever order you see fit. So just to go over these, we've got one where a customer record update, where a support rep might notice that maybe something's incorrect, and they have to actually directly go into the system and update something. The other one is a refund request where a customer might email asking for money back. And the last one is maybe an inquiry into the policy of a company. So if you can choose those in the polls, I'm not going to spend too long on that specifically. But yeah, have a quick vote. That should have popped up now. Um, and Daniel Kim will probably post the results to this in the chat after for me, just so we can move on quite swiftly here. Perfect. So in today's session, what we're going to do is we're actually going to build out apps, workflows, and agents to demonstrate where they're best used for each use case. So we're actually going to build a customer support kind of dashboard and management features inside of an app, a workflow that automates the refunds with agentic AI and logic, and as well as agents to handle more dynamic requests for the customer. Perfect. So now we're going to get into the meat of the session here. So I'm just going to share my screen. So I hope everyone has got the policy, the documentation on the instructions that Tobias has put in the chat. I'll give everyone a few seconds to open that and get logged into the instance. The instance that we're logging into today is the EMEA which you should have all got an invitation to earlier. If people do not have invitations to this, because maybe they signed up a little bit later, please just put in the chat your email and Tobias will be able to manually invite you. I'm going to give everyone a few seconds just to get into this instance here. So once again, we've got the instruction document in the chat. So if everyone can open that up, go to the link. You should have received your invitations, log in, and then we'll get started in about a minute or so once everyone's in. I'm seeing quite a lot of people haven't got access right now. If you do check your emails just to see if you have got an email in there with an invitation. If not, Tobias will add you. If you use this for the last webinar as well, the login will be the same from the last webinar because this is the same instance, just to let everyone know that. Right, we're going to get started here. We'll start off a little bit slower. So if anyone is getting started, we'll take our time to get started here. But so the first piece is really understanding the first thing that we're going to build. And we're going to actually build an application to start. So I've actually attached a JSON, and if everyone can click on that JSON linked and actually download that JSON for me, that'll just be the first step. So the JSON is linked on instruction set 1, and if you just download that JSON for me, and then we can get started from there. Perfect. Once everyone has done that, if we can go into the emeaagents.retool.com instance and click on the top navigation page where it says apps. In this section here, we have a button at the top, which I'll just zoom in on, says create. If we click on that, we'll have the option to actually create from a JSON or zip file. We're going to actually create from the JSON we just downloaded on point 1 on the instruction set. So just to reiterate again, on the app section on navigation, we went to the create button and we chose from JSON. From here, we need to upload the file that we just downloaded. And give it a unique name to use. So for example, I'm just going to call mine UN app because it's my app today. So if everyone could give it like a unique name to themselves, because we're going to need to go back and find these a little bit later. Once we've done that, we can just press the create app button down here. And we should launch straight into our application into the edit mode. So now that we're into the application, I've built the bones of the application out already because I don't want to spend too much time adding components that a lot of you have probably done before. The main purpose
Ian,
is
I'm
today.
just going to go back.
Yeah, for sure.
If you open, just to show people, so everyone there's a Google Doc that's been linked in the chat. If you click on that Google Doc, and you and maybe if you can open that Google Doc, it says at the
Yeah,
start where it has links to the JSONs that you can download. So
absolutely.
if you so you can see that first one.
So on instruction set one here, we've got a link to the JSON. On that link here, we can download the JSON from there. So if we just click on this link, it will open up a tab for us to download that JSON specifically. So once again, on the document here, we've actually gone in and on instruction set one, we've linked the JSON right here, and we can just download that when opening the tab. We should have a download button right there. I'll go back to the start just to show everyone how to actually open up that JSON as well. So once we've opened it up from here and downloaded JSON, we can go to the create button at the top here on the app page, and we can import from a JSON. Once we've done this, we just upload from the file that we've just downloaded, and we just choose the name specific to ourselves, something unique so you can go back and find it later. So I'm just naming it UN app here, but anyone can name it something else. Once we've done this, we just want to press create app, and this will launch us into the bare bones application that I've built out so far. Perfect. Now, once we're into here, we're going to focus on the first step, which is actually a manual process and why an application is important in certain regards. So, an application will be important when someone has to go in, like we spoke about before, and make a manual update, maybe type some information, update that information. And that's what we're going to do today. So, I've already built out a button here to edit the customer, but we're going to build out some of the functionality behind that. Before we do, we've actually got a list of tickets here which show issues with maybe customer orders, but we don't actually see the customers in this section. So we're going to build out the first step. On this first step, I want everyone to go to the customer container on the left-hand side and click the add components. So once again, on the customer container, click add components. On here, we can search for key value. And if we just click that key value, it will actually add a key value component into here. Now, for now, we can just leave this as it is, and we'll write a query to actually put the customer information in. So once again, what I did there is I went to the add component and I just searched for that key value. Perfect. So the next step will actually be getting the customer information for each specific ticket. To do this, we need to go to the left-hand navigation bar and we can see a little code icon. Once we click on this code icon, we're actually going to go down to where it says page one. And there's a little plus button next to page one where we can actually add queries. The first query we're going to add is a resource query. What a resource query allows us to do is reference information, whether it's coming from an internal data source or an API. So once we click on resource query, we're going to choose Retool database, which we're going to be using for everything today. So once again, I went to the code icon on the left-hand side, pressed the plus button, and I chose resource query. On that resource query, I'm going to select Retool database, and it's going to open up a line here for me to write some SQL. Perfect. When everyone's at this stage, the first thing I want everyone to do is just update the name of this query, just to something like get customer, just so we've got something nice to reference here today. Once we've done that, you'll actually see that I've wrote some SQL in point 2a, just below 2a on the instruction set, which actually gives us a little bit of information, which is the SQL query to copy over into this box here. So we can just copy that right over, and that's just below 2a on the instruction dot. The last thing we need to do is actually add a transform result. So once we've added the SQL query in, and we go down, there's a box here that says transform results. If we press the plus, and below that SQL query, I've actually wrote a JavaScript in here just to format the data that we're going to get. And I'm just going to paste that into here as well. When we run that, we can actually see that the information that we're pulling is updating dependent on the row that we select in the table. So now we want to actually link this query back to the key values that we put in a minute ago. To do this, we're going to press the X's so we get rid of that panel, and we need to click back on the key values component. Once again, so we're just going to click back on the key values component. If it hasn't already, we need to open up the inspector tab in the top right-hand corner. So to do this, you click on the key components and open up the inspector tab on the right-hand corner. This is going to be filled with some junk data for now. We're just going to highlight this and just delete it all because this is not relevant to us. Once we've done that, we can actually reference that query we just wrote. And I wrote in the instruction doc, the query that you're actually going to have to write in this part here that says data, which will be our main data source for the key values. So I'm just going to write it out manually, but that is get customers.data, and then we need to set our index to 0. So on the instruction doc, we can see that just below here. So once again, what I just did there is I added the key value component. I wrote the query to get the customer dependent on the ticket that we select. And then I map this back to the key value component here using that query. Perfect. So now we've got the information pulling for each individual customer dependent on the row that we're selecting. So the manual process here for someone going in might actually be editing these customer details, whether it's their full name, their phone number, or their VIP status. Now, why this is important to do in more of an application feel is because it is manual. We're going to have a human going into the process and actually changing information. So the first thing we need to do is create a form to actually pre-fill some of this information. To do this, we're going to go to the top left-hand corner where we see a plus button that says Add UI. And we're going to just search modal. We're going to drag this into the frame here. So once again, what I did there is I just went to the top left-hand corner with the plus button and just searched the word modal and dragged that into the display. Perfect. Now we're into that modal frame view. We can see inside we've got a button that says Add Components into this modal frame. So we're just going to click on the Add Components and just search the word form. We can expand this out just to fit the frame. So what I did there is I opened up a modal frame and I added in the form component. Once we've added in the form component, we can actually just generate from the table, which is a little bit of a shortcut. We could just add each component individually, but we're just going to generate from the table here. So we're just going to click Generate from Table on the form. And we're going to choose the source here as the Retool DB, which we're building on today. So on the source, just click Retool DB on the drop-down section, and it should automatically pre-fill the table as customers. But if it is not, please just click on the customers on the drop-down. From here, we're going to be given all the options on the customer data, and we're just going to put this in an order that's most suitable to yourselves. So for example, I'm going to put full name at the top, maybe email, and VIP. And we need to check these are the right type as well. So checkbox for the VIP, email for email, and text area for full name. I'm actually going to get red on the left-hand side and untick customer ID and created at, just because I don't need those for this. So once again, just reorder these into something that you feel fit, check the data type, and then just got rid of the last two at the bottom here. Once I've done this, I can actually just click in the bottom right of this, generate form, and we can see a form has been generated. Now, we want to pre-fill this form with the selected customer information in that key value part here. So the way that we do that is we're just going to click onto the form again. So once again, we're going to open up that modal frame and we're just going to click onto the form. And if it's not opened already, we're going to open the inspector view in the top right hand side again. Once we've done this, we can see data source. And we're just going to pre-fill this with the same that we did last time. So it's that get value or get customer, sorry, dot data and index at 0 again. So to find that on the document, it's just going to be at point 4b, just below here. What this will do is it will pre-fill the information with the selected customer. So now what I can do, because I've already mapped that edit customer button, is say if I just select another random customer here, and I can actually go in and just click trigger click, and it will open up the information for that customer. Perfect. So once we've done that, we're going to write our write back query. So that form actually writes back information. So we're at point 4c on the document now. So we're going to go in and we're actually going to open up the query that was automatically wrote for us that should say something like form 1 submit to customer. And I've actually uploaded a picture on the document that shows us actually how to pre-fill this information.
Ewan, could we maybe redo the setting up a modal part, how you got that in?
Absolutely.
That may also give people time to catch up with you if they start a bit later.
No problem at all. So just to add the modal part, I will delete my modal and we'll go from the start there. I'll just add a new modal. So what we do to add a modal to the workspace is we're going to go to the top left-hand corner, which says add UI, and we're going to search the word modal. From here, we're going to drag it into the workspace. Once we've dragged it into the workspace, we're going to add component. So once again, what I did there is I went to the top, I wrote modal frame, and dragged it into the workspace. From here, I pressed add component and just typed form 1. Once we've opened up this form, we're just going to generate from the table. We're going to click generate from table. And on the drop-down section, we're going to choose Retool DB. So once again, we're going to click on the form, generate from table, and we're going to choose Retool DB on that section there. The table contents should be pre-filled with customer, but if they're not, just click the drop down here and choose customer. We're then going to untick customer ID and created app and just generate the form in the bottom there by clicking that button. I'm not going to do that specific piece because I've already got a form generated. Once we've got up to that step there, we can go back to the left-hand side and the code icon. And we're going to see a new query that says form 1 submit to customers. Going to open up that query and configure it as I've shown on the document in 4C. Once we've done this, so to do this, we need to update an existing record and we need to map that back to the customer ID. And I've wrote in there how we're going to do that specifically. So we're going to write again, get customer.data 0 dot ID dot customer ID, sorry. So once again, just to reiterate last time on that one, we're going to open up the code icon on the left. We should have a new query, which is form 1 submit to customers. And we're going to configure it as shown in the documentation here. Once we've done this, the last thing that we need to do is add an event handler to the bottom. So on that query that we just wrote, the form 1 submit to customers, we're going to scroll down to the bottom where it says event handlers. We're going to open up that event handlers and we're going to see two things under the event handlers, success and failure. So once again, we're going to scroll to the bottom of the form 1 submit to customers, and we're going to see where it says event handlers. We're going to expand this and it's going to say success and failure. We're going to press the plus on success. And we're actually going to attach the query that says get customer. What this does is when we write back, we're going to need to retrieve the most recent write back. So it will get the most recent version of the customer in that table. Once this is all done and configured with that success handler, we're going to click the save button in the top right-hand corner. And that should all be done. So far what we should have done is we should have opened up a modal. And now when you press this edit customer button, by pressing the trigger click, it should open up a modal, which has got the customer information loaded in. We've also wrote a query, which is relating to 4C on the document. And we've also configured an event handler on success of that to re-get the customer. So now let's say a manual process that Alex, this customer, has changed their name to Alex Smith, for example. And their email needs to change to Alex Smith as well due to a user request. We can rewrite that information and press submit. What we will see this do is now the customer information has all updated on the back end and we can see it in a view here. So we've just built out a manual process for someone to go in and actually edit a customer details through a form, and they can edit this in any way they see fit. Perfect. So that's the finish of the application piece. Now we're going to go on to the next part. Now, we just did a manual process. Sometimes some processes will need to be automated, maybe from point A to Z, with a few stops in between. Now, how would we do this? Is we'd use a workflow. And a good process for this would be a refund, where maybe someone puts in a refund request and we need to analyze if it should be a refund and how we're going to refund it as well. So for the purpose of this, I've actually built this refund request into a button that we're going to open in a minute. But normally this would be automated from point A to Z. So to get to that, we're going to go onto the document again, and we're going to go into section 2 now. So give everyone a minute to catch up. We're going to go back onto the document and we're going to open up section 2. The same process that we did before, where we downloaded the JSON, I'm going to need everyone to do again. So on stage 2 on the document, we've got another JSON that we need to download. We're just going to click that and download it in the top right-hand corner. Perfect. When everyone's done that on stage 2 and downloaded the JSON, we're going to go back to our Retool instance. When we're on our Retool instance, we're going to click in the top left-hand corner, and we're going to choose Workflows. So again, when we're back on our Retool instance, we're going to go to the top left-hand corner, and we're going to choose Workflows there. Brilliant. So when we're on the Workflows page and we've downloaded that JSON from the document on stage 2, we're actually going to do the same process as before, and we're going to see that Create New button again. And on here, we've got the same option from JSON. So again, if we've opened up EMEA agents, we will see in the top navigation bar, workflows, and we'll see a box for create new. From here, if we go down, there's an option that says from JSON, and we're going to follow the same process as before, where we upload the JSON that you just downloaded. And again, something uniquely named to you, because we're going to link this back to the app in a minute. So for myself, I'm just going to name it Ewan Workflow and create a new workflow. This should give us straight into the application that or the workflow that I've built out so far, which is more of a bare bones that we're going to fill out. So once again, what we did there is we just opened up the JSON, we downloaded the JSON. When we're on the home page for Retool, we went to workflows in the top right corner, and we created new just there. Same process as before, we're going to go from JSON and upload the JSON. and create a workflow which should launch the one that we've just spoken about. I'm just going to open up my one. So the first piece that we're actually going to do here is actually understand what we need to do as our next step in this workflow. So to give you a basic overview, if you haven't heard of Retool workflows before, Retool workflows is virtually our back-end automation piece that can be used for BPA, kind of business process automation solutions, as well as lightweight ETL, or even creating lightweight APIs. And this can be started using schedules on cron jobs or even webhooks as well. So it can be used within applications or externally. They're amazing for tasks where we need to automate multiple steps to complete a process. So getting started on here, we actually need to link this start trigger to our first block. So to do this, on the start trigger block that you're going to see when you come in, there's a little green icon that says click, drag to the next connection block. So once again, on the start trigger, you'll see a green icon, or it's gray until it turns green when you hover over it. And it will allow us to add a new block. The new block that we're going to add in is called AI action. So we're going to click on the add block here and AI action. Now, from here, we actually need to choose the action that we want to do today. And I've again on the document under 2, I've shown what this will need to look like. So we're going to choose the option that says classify text. And I've actually already pre-wrote the prompt just above there for us today as well. So if we just copy and paste this and paste it into the prompt. Now, what we need to do is we need to say what classification labels we're going to have. So virtually what we want to do is we want to take in the body of the start trigger, which we can see here says the ring light flickers at a low brightness, and determine what we need to do with it. If it's a refund, if it's customer support, or if it should be routed somewhere else. So in the classification labels, we're just going to type refund, enter. Now, once that's done, we're also going to write customer support, enter, and product feedback. Now, we don't really need to write customer support and feedback. If we want to, we can just put other in this section as well, because we're only going to be using the refund option today. Now, once this is done, so just to reiterate, we opened up an AI block. We copy and pasted the prompt listed here. We chose classify text on the drop down on the options, and on the classification labels, we made sure to put refund and other. Now, why I said customer support and all those other things is if we had a little bit longer today, we'd actually be able to build out this AI block to determine what direction this would go in by classifying in more detail. And we do this internally with our support tickets, determining whether they need to be routed to a specific person, the priority on them, and many other aspects too. Once we've done this, we can actually run the block in the top, and we can see it takes the body of this input and decides what needs to be done with it. So for example, I said the ring light flickers at low brightness, and it said this is a refund. If I was to change this just for a second, just for demo purposes here, to what's your GDPR policy, something completely unrelated, we can see that it's now going to classify it as other. Just going to change that back. Perfect. So once we've got this built out, we're going to move on to the next step, which is step 4 under the workflow section. Now, what this will do is will actually allow us to add what we call a branch block. So on that AI action we just wrote, we're going to do the same that we did before, which is add another block in. And we're going to do this by pressing the same part and going down to the section that we see called branch. So once again, we're going to go in and we're going to connect that AI action we just wrote up to a node called branch. Now, this branch section allows us to do a little bit of selection here. So we can write if statements to actually determine what direction the workflow will go next, as we can see different connection points. And I've actually provided a picture of the text we need to put in here. So whatever your previous node was called, for me it was query free. I just need to write query free.data and check if it's equal to refund. So I created a new branch block. I then, on the if query, wrote the previous node block and checked if it was equal to refund. And then we can just have else for the purposes of here. Once we run this block, we can see that because the previous AI block classified this as a refund, we're actually going to go down the greenly lit branch. And the selection has taken place. Now, why this is really powerful is if we had a little bit more in-depth prompt here and we're ingesting a little bit more information, we can produce full agentic workflows that allow AI to classify the direction the workflow goes, and we can have multiple cases and clauses here to determine the direction. For simplicity today, we're just going to have these two. So the if branch, we just need to connect up to the branch you see at the top called get customers. So once again, the branch block on the if, we just need to connect to get customers. And the other branch on the else, we're just going to connect to the response one you see listed down here. Again, the else, we're going to connect to the response one you see down here. So what we've done so far is we've created the start of the workflow, which will take in the body of the start trigger and determine what way we need to do it in an agentic format. Perfect. The next step, we've actually pre-wrote this get customers, which will get all the customers information for the specific order we're querying. Now, why we're doing this is on the next step in the instruction doc, you see we're actually going to validate the phone number for that customer. And we can see that's pulled in this information here. Once we've connected that up, we're going to again connect a new block and we're going to choose the code this time. Once again, we're going to open up a new block, connecting it to get customers, and we're going to choose code. We're going to connect this to the branch 2 that you see next to it as well. Again, we're going to connect that new code block to the branch 2 you see next to it. And we're going to switch this code block over to Python. Now, before we write the script, I want everyone to go over to the left-hand navigation bar. Again, once we've put in this new code block and switched it to Python, I want us to go over to the left-hand side where we see the navigation bar, and we're going to see a little box icon. We're going to click on that box icon. Again, what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the left-hand side navigation bar, click the box icon, and it should open libraries. Now, one of my favorite parts of workflows is it allows us to use any JavaScript package as well as Python libraries and import them into your Retool instance. So how we do this, once we've clicked on that box icon, we're going to click add. And for today, we're just going to add a Python library. And we're going to click add Python library and just search the word numbers. It should already be added here, or phone numbers, sorry. Apologies. So phone numbers. It should already be added because we're all on the same instance, but if it's not, just click the add button here and add selected library. So once again, this should already be done, but if we go to the libraries on the left-hand side, click the add button, add Python library, and search phone numbers, we should see the query's already been selected, or the library has already been selected, but if not, just select that and select add selected library for me. Perfect. Once we've done this, we're going to go back to the document and you're going to see I've pre-wrote a script here that uses that library to actually validate the phone number for that specific user. And this is using a completely external library. So once I've pasted that into there, I just want to change the name of this code block to number validator that I've also put in the documentation. Oh, perfect. So once again, we added a code block, imported the library on the left-hand side here. We then copied in the script that I wrote with the custom Python library and changed the number, changed the query name to number validator. Once it's all set up, we can actually click run and we can see that it's taken in the phone number from the get customer command here and validated it. Now, if this was an incorrect number, it would say that it's not valid and we would go down a different branch because when I've connected here, I've also used that number validator name that we named the query here and selected our branch. So if we click play, we can see that the branch is selected the right way to go. Now, I've pre-built the rest of this just so we had a little bit more time. But virtually the next steps will decide if it's not a valid phone number, then we need to send an update email to the customer that says, please update your email, your phone number. And if it is, then we mark the ticket as resolved and we add the refund to a new table called refunds table and just send a true response to the status. So once again, we added the phone number validator with a custom Python library. We then had a branch block. This branch block took us to either option, depending if the phone number was valid or not. And that should be done on the workflow. Now, before everyone leaves your workflow, please go to the top right-hand corner and we can see it says publish release. Once again, when everyone's done building out this part of the workflow, please go to the top right-hand corner where we see it says publish release. Once we click here, we just want to click the bottom where it says publish release again. Perfect. Now that's all been published, we can go back to our application. So just to give one last overview of what we did there. So let me just change something here. So it'll give me the option to publish again. So once we've completed our workflow, we went to the top right-hand corner and we clicked publish release. Give everyone a second to catch up there, and then we're going to move on to the next stage. Perfect. So the next stage, we're actually going to link this workflow back to the application that we've just made. So in the top right-hand corner, if everyone click back to home, top left-hand corner, sorry. And in top left-hand corner again, we're going to see apps. And just search for the application you just built. It should show up in this part here, but if not, just give it a search and it should show up on either published or in recent. Perfect. So once I've clicked into this application, all we need to do is go to the top right-hand corner where it says edit. So again, we found the application we wrote before. Using the apps part, it should be on your recents. And we're going to go to the top right-hand corner where it says edit. Once we're in this edit mode, we're actually going to go to the left-hand side again where it says that code icon block. So once again, once we're back in the edit mode, and to get to the edit mode, we're just going to click on the top right-hand corner. We're going to go to the left-hand side where it has the code icon. From here, we're going to add one more query below where you've got all those queries that we've listed before. Again, we're going to open up the code icon on the left-hand side, and below where you see all these queries, we're just going to click add again. Now on this one, we're going to actually add under utilities, import workflow. So once again, we're going to click add next to page 1 and import workflow. The first thing I'd like everyone to do is rename this workflow just to refund workflow. And just press enter once that's done. So once again, we went to page 1, clicked add, imported a workflow, and then just renamed that to refund workflow and pressed enter. Once we're at that stage, we're actually going to select the workflow that you just wrote. So we can just search and we can see here, I saved it as UN workflow, so I can just click that one. And in this box down here, we're actually going to pass in the value of the current selected row. And I've actually shown that right here. So we're on part 6. We're actually going to go in, press the code icon, add a new workflow, add a new query, choose the import workflow, and under here, we're going to pass in that table1.selected row. So this is how it should look in the end with the name up the top as refund workflow and passing in table1.selected row. From here, we're just going to click save in the top right hand corner. And we're going to click the X. So once we've created the refund workflow, saved it as a refund workflow, and passed in the table1.selected row, we're going to click save. And I've already mapped this button to a workflow with that name. So now, for example, if we find one here that says the mic has been intermittent buzzing, we can do that. One last thing I just forgot to do, apologies. We're gonna have to go back onto that code block icon and click refund workflow. And the bit that I just forgot there was we need to do part C, which is to get all those tickets again to get the most updated version. So we're going to go down to where it says event handler on that refund workflow block. And on success, we're going to select get tickets and save again. Once again, we're going to go to the code block icon. We're going to open up that refund workflow again. And we're going to scroll to the bottom where it says event handlers, expand this out. And on success, click the plus and select the get tickets again. And click save once we've done that as well. Perfect. So I've already pre-configured this button so we can choose a ticket now. For example, this one where it says the mic has been buzzing during calls. And if I click this trigger, we'll actually see the workflow is running at the bottom. And we can see it's gone through all of those steps and now actually marked this as resolved. Oh, apologies. And it's marked this as resolved because the workflow was kicked off from here and went through all those subsequent steps. Now, why this is important is because the automation took place from one click of a button, and this can be even kicked off automatically from maybe receiving an email or something like that. The only reason I mapped it to a button is just for the purposes of the build along today. Perfect. So now we've done that, we're going to move on to the last part of the build along. So now we've finished that part on the workflows, we're going to go back onto the document and we're going to go to stage 3, which is a customer agent. And once again, I'm going to get everyone to download the last JSON today, I promise. And we're going to click here and download that JSON, just as we did before. So once again, we're going to go to stage 3 on the document. We're going to click here. And we're going to download that JSON once again, as we did before. Perfect. At this point, we're going to go to the top left-hand corner. And this time, we're going to choose agents. Again, from the app we were just on, we're going to click the top left-hand corner and we're going to choose agents. Once we've done this, we're going to do the same thing as we did before, except this time we're going to click the import button in the top right. So once again, once we've gone from our application, we're going to click agents. Should open up a space like this, and we're going to click import. From here, we're going to upload a file, and that file will just be the template that you just downloaded. Again, we're going to name this something unique to yourself that you can find later. And we're just going to click Create Agent. It should open up a screen like this. So if everyone's here, just wait here for a second. I'm just going to walk through again. We're going to go back to the application, open up agents. We're going to import, and we're going to choose that JSON that we just wrote before. And then we're going to create the agent from there. Now we should be met with this screen of the agent that I've again built out the bones of. And we're going to go to the top navigation bar and we're going to click configuration. The prompt should be pre-wrote for us. And just to give an overview of what our agents platform is, our agents platform is a way for you to build, evaluate, and also create and monitor logs of agents in one platform secured in your normal Retool environment. So once we've opened up the agent from the JSON that we downloaded here, we're going to go to configuration. Now, this is configured so far to be a customer support assistant. And I've actually preloaded this with a policy document. Now, this policy document is very brief, but it's just some rules and regulations that the agent might need to go by in regards to GDPR or response times, anything in those regards. I've just actually uploaded that to the agent already. So our next step is we're going to add some tools to this agent to actually be fully autonomous and maybe search for orders, update tickets, anything in those regards. To do this, we're going to go down to the bottom where we see tools and click the add tool section. So once again, we're going to go to the configuration tab on the top, and on the tools section, we're going to click add tool. From here, we're going to create a new custom tool. So on the tool selection, we're going to create a new custom tool. On the document, we can see that the first tool we're going to create is called Get All Database Schema. And we can just copy and paste this right into here. Now, the description on this tool doesn't need to be too detailed. We can actually just get the name and put some spaces in again. It's not too important on this specific tool. Once we've named this tool, we're going to go down to the bottom here where we see it says function logic. Again, once we've named this tool and put a description in, we're going to go down to where it says function logic and edit function. This is very similar to our workflows product in building out these connections for the tools. And the first thing we're going to do is get this code one block and just press delete. So just to reiterate again, we went to the function logic, pressed edit, and there was a code block, and we just deleted that code block. Perfect. And the first thing we're going to need to do is connect this back to our Retool DB again. So that's actually going to go in, and that connection point again, like we had on workflows, we're just going to click resource query. And we're going to select the drop down here. And you should see Retool database listed. So again, to this params node, we're going to add a resource query. And on that resource query, we're going to add Retool database on the drop-down selection. Now, I've already pre-configured the SQL query that we're going to write into here. So if we just copy and paste that, it's listed under 1D. And what this does is it returns the schema of all the tables in our database that we need for the agent. So once again, I just copied and pasted the SQL query into the resource block. And the last thing we're going to do here is just add one more node, and it's just going to be the code block. Now this should pre-fill with the information of return query1.data, which is all we need. Once again, once I copied and pasted in that SQL query, I just added a new block, the code block, and it should pre-fill with that information for us. Once this is all done, we're just going to click done in the top right-hand corner. So again, once we've finished there, we're just going to click done in the right-hand corner and then click save. Now we only need to add one more tool to this. And to do this, we're just going to click add tool again. So again, we're going to click tools again, add tool, create a new custom tool. Once again, create a new custom tool. And we're just going to call this one SQL query. And in the description, just write something like write custom SQL. So once again, we're going to name this SQL query, and we're just going to name it write custom SQL. Now, the one thing that we have to do extra here is add on parameters underneath, add parameter. And the name of this parameter is going to be the same as the name of this query, or this tool, SQL query. We're going to edit the function once again. Add a block in here. Connect back again to Retool DB. And this time, I've already pre-wrote what we need to be putting into here. And it's params.sql query. So we can just copy and paste this right into the block. Once again, we're just going to click on the add, and we're going to click the code block again, and it should pre-fill. Again, click done for me and save. Once we've done this, we're just going to click deploy in the top right-hand corner again and deploy our agent. Once we've deployed our agent, we're going to go back to the application. So once again, once we've deployed our agent, we're going to go back to the application that we've just built, back to the edit mode, and we're going to click on the email tab this time. This is like a pre-fill of information listed to certain emails. And on the left-hand side, we should see it says agent chat 1 query 1. On here, we're going to search for the agent we just wrote. If mine saved. So the agent we just wrote should be listed there. Let me just check mine. And we're going to link this back to the application in here. Let me just try that one more time. There we go, mine's found now. Once we click save in the top here, the agent should now be linked. So for example, I know we've got a query here in French. I can just press the button here and it will actually kick off the agent, which will look through the policy document and write custom SQL to actually pull information, which is fully autonomous from start to finish. Now, you can play around with this in your own time and see what it does. I'm aware we're a bit pressed for time, so I'm just going to go back and just kind of reflect on what we've done today. So today we explored the differences between apps, workflows, and agents. We built out practical examples of these and hopefully clarified where each can be used. And last, we hopefully identified new use cases on how we can do this in real world with new situations for you guys. Now, before we finish, just wanted to introduce our next webinar that we'll be hosting on the 30th of October, which is Vibe Coding to Production Grade Applications with Retool Assist. And this is a little bit of a preview of a new feature that we've got coming to Retool, which is our new app gen feature called Retool Assist. This will virtually allow people to use natural language to build Retool applications while still including the same things that we love about Retool, whether that's security by default, integrating with your current data, and within your current environment, VPC. So this was a really fun one, really fun product that we've got launching soon. So I would definitely sign up and would love to see you all attend there as well. Perfect. Well, guys, thank you very much. That's all that we have for today. Any questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or send myself or Ben Miller an email. Thank you.